Hello, everyone.
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, Marmasters? Good
How's
to see you,
everyone
man.
doing? Let's see who we have in the house tonight. Joe Johnson's in the house. Sweet Carolina, hello.
There
Renee,
it
how are you
is.
doing? Honeybee. Miss Haunted Parlor, how are you? True Crime with Shannon, hello. And Andrea. Renee, how are you? Polygraphs here. I think I said Sweet Caroline. I'm not sure. Melissa. Olivia 2. Pam Hurst is here. Miss Thing. Jumpin' Jack Flash. Nice to see ya. How are you, Melissa? Country Dog Lady. Stacy Skinner. Hello. Jen and Dave are here. Welcome, welcome. My Charlie.
Sorry, guys. I'm talking to Mr. Jensen as we speak. He's in the back of the studio, and just letting him know we were saying our hellos to everybody before we bring him in.
Miss Jacqueline, how are you doing? Zooter May 15. And Meg. So, I just want to tell everybody that we have Jason K. Jensen with us tonight. We're excited to hear his thoughts and gain from his experience. He is a private investigator at Jensen Investigations. He's also an analyst that's been on True Crime TV. And
he also has 14 years experience in law.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I got in contact with him, to get his ins and outs of what he thinks is actually going on, and with this probable cause, the prosecution, and the defense. So we just wanted to see what his thoughts and things like that are when it's going on with this case.
And he's a paralegal too, so
right.
He can bring a lot of information and a lot of insight. So let's bring on Mr. Jensen. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
How you doing, Mr. Jensen? It's good to see you. See you. Well, me and you talked a little bit today by phone. It was pretty interesting. Some of the things that me and you discussed, and some of your outlook on what you're seeing with the case, and that's why I decided, well, hell, man, he's got the experience. Let's bring him on and let's hear what he has to say about this from the defense team's perspective on the Delphi case. So we'll let you take the floor.
Sure. Did you have some things you want to ask me, or do we just cut me loose and I start from the beginning?
Well,
I mean, obviously, the first thing I'd like to say is Ron Logan did it, not RichardAllen.
Okay. We know your theory on that, and we're okay with that.
I will admit there's still some things about the Ron Logan situation that's got me baffled, and we need answers. When it comes to his coordinates for his phone, that's one thing that's stopping me from cutting Ron Logan off the list. Until you can prove to me why his phone was there, he's still on the list. And even the prosecutors even admitted now there's another maybe one or two people involved.
Well, that's just them speaking safely so that they have an exit ramp. If you don't have an exit ramp, you're stuck with your theory that if you can't prove it, you just look like a fool.
Right. So what is your take on everything that's taking place right now?
Starting with the arrest and the search of his house, the probable cause, what do you think's in that? Yeah.
Is that me cutting out, or you guys?
It must be you. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's him. He's freezing up.
He's freezing.
You're freezing up. I back out and come back in. He froze up.
All right, we're having some technical difficulty. We'll try to get him back on here as soon as we can. Do you want to message him?
Yeah.
Frank, and let him know that he's completely frozen?
Yeah. We'll get to him now. There you go. He just went out.
Okay. So while we're waiting here, I see Randy's in the house.
Yeah.
C4P. Honeybee. Let's see. Jan's here tonight. Miss Mala's here tonight. Ladybug 4U Night 165. So once we can get him back on, we will. Apparently there's a little bit of connection issues there. But what I was saying is, Mr. Jensen has a lot of experience. If he didn't have experience, Court TV would not have him on there as an analyst. So I know the first time we had him on here, we didn't really explain all of his expertise, and we made sure that we did that now. He's a private investigator. He's worked cold cases all over the country, or all over the United States. He's a paralegal, so it's important to get their expertise and their Melissa, we're trying to get him back on, but we're hoping to talk to him about what he thinks about the probable cause and the search warrant for RichardAllen's house. Oh, here he comes. Hello.
Sorry about that. I didn't know if it was my system that was crashing or yours, so I just went out to the car and got a backup system just in case we're going to need it.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, you froze
today, so sometimes
yeah,
the weather interferes.
Yeah, you froze up and was like, but we want to get your perspective because a lot of people are starting to move away from the Keegan Klein situation as of right now because of whatever situation. But I still got my eye on him. Things are not. There's no such thing as coincidence when it comes to him being his house being searched on the 13th of October. Then you got exactly 7 days later, Keegan Klein's in his first pretrial. Then you got six
again.
Yep, he sure is. He froze up again.
You'll have to tell him to use his backup.
My goodness. They must be having some bad weather in Utah. Froze up again.
Well, just bear with us for a minute here, everyone. We'll get him back on here.
Froze up again.
Yeah, he just jumped out, so I'm sure he's coming back on. Just want to say thank you to everybody who is joining us tonight while we wait for him.
Metro PCS Wi-Fi. But
not sure what that is, but okay.
Yeah, I just realized that, Pam. It might be where he's at in his house. He might be moving to another part of his house.
It's snowing in Utah?
That he's on the job almost 24 hours a day, guys. That's why he's always looking at his phone when he's on people's shows.
Last time he was on here, he was actually in the car watching someone.
Yep. Leftover hot turkey sandwich. We got Miracle Whip or Real. Oh, there's Lexi. Hi, baby.
Oh, so it's storming in Georgia there and froze too? Okay.
There.
Yeah, I don't know about you all, but I've been
There he comes.
eating leftover turkey. Hi, Lexi.
There he is.
There we go. Finally, the new system's back up. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
You having some snow out there?
Yes. It's been a couple of weeks, but today.
Yeah, there he goes. It's freezing again. I said he might have to move to another part of the house. But yeah, what I was talking about is, how they did the search warrant on Richard Allen's house on October 13th. Then 7 days later, you have Keegan Klein's first pretrial hearing. Then 6 days after that, you get Richard Allen being arrested. And then 2 days after that, he's being formally charged. Now, what are the odds of the two being connected?
Well, I think that the connection is pretty strong. And the reason why I say that is in my 14 years as a paralegal working for two different defense firms, that was common. Basically, if you can't get out of the case based on guilt or innocence, oftentimes you try to negotiate saying, hey, I'm not the big fish here. I can give you the big fish if you cut me a deal. So they give them, a letter of immunity to talk and give their information. And then the prosecutor will withhold the final outcome of a deal until they see if the deal brings fruit. So
Right.
If they gave a big fish, then, they might see some kind of enticement, like here in Keegan's case. All of a sudden, after there's an arrest, Keegan gets a 4-count dismissal off of his charges. And then while it's pending trial in the Allen case, all of a sudden there's another continuance. Well, Keegan's attorney is going to be smart and continue that until Richard Allen's case is resolved, because that's ultimately the carrot that they hold over Keegan's case to make sure he testifies, number one, and then number two, that if there is a conviction, Keegan's attorney is going to want to come back and ask for a dismissal of all of his charges because he was just a petty little old internet criminal, and he gave them a murderer. So whether there's real sincerity in the offer or if he just grabs somebody that he's familiar with and blame it all, that's the risk you take if you're going to believe a liar.
Right. I have a question. How many times can Keegan Klein push back his trial and ask for a continuance?
As many times as the prosecutor and or the judge allows it. If they do a side, conversation with the judge off the record in chambers or whatever, and they push it out and push it out and push it out, and the judge is okay with that, fine. Otherwise, if this is a deal between the prosecutor and the defense counsel and the judge isn't on board, the prosecutor can always do a motion to dismiss the charges without prejudice, and that without prejudice means that they can refile it. So if there's ever a point where the judge disagrees with this approach, they can dismiss and bring it up down the road. And, as long as it hasn't passed the statute of limitations, they can do that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I've tried to explain to our subscribers what the difference is with murder and felony murder. Indiana doesn't have felony murder. They have murder enhancement. Can you explain that in your own words, what that means?
Well, there's different degrees of murder, and whether it's a felony, non-felony murder, that's a nuance. That's probably, something specific with Indiana. But really what it is, you can have a capital homicide where, there's the death penalties in play, or you can have a first degree murder where it was intentional. And then as degrees of culpability go down, so does the level of the charges. So like, for instance, manslaughter or second degree can be that it was caused by reckless intent or deliberate indifference. It can go all the way down where it's negligent homicide, where it was an accident, but due to the accidental nature of it, it makes it a misdemeanor. So, but it's still a homicide because it was not natural. It wasn't suicide. So as long as it wasn't an accident or suicide, it qualifies for a homicide because it's the taking of a life that was not prescribed, not ready for, right? It wasn't someone on their deathbed due to illness. And it certainly wasn't somebody that was on his deathbed due to his age. So homicide.
Does state law trump constitutional law?
Was that state law trump constitutional law?
Yes.
Well, there's going to be constitutions in both. You got the federal constitution, which, was amended in 1784, adopting the Bill of Rights, the 10 amendments. And then every state has its own constitution, and many of those state constitutions mirror what was the organization that was by our original founding fathers for the federal system, where there's a legislative, a judicial, and an executive branch. And then they have, rather than 10 amendments incorporated thereafter for individual rights, they will have them part of that original document because they're embracing all of those, including the amendments in the original draft. Now, some of the constitutions, like I believe the Virginia Constitution, predated the amendment, so they have their own amendments. But states like Utah, where I'm from, where it was incorporated in 1884, the individual rights were incorporated in the original document.
Okay. Well, the reason why I was asking is regards to the freedom of the press. I didn't know if the state can overrule federal constitutional rights.
No. What federal law out there has recognized is that a state court system or a state constitution can't override federal. They have what's known as the supremacy clause, but what they have recognized is that a state can afford greater protection. So as long as it's not undermining the federal constitution or the amendments, it can be given greater protection for individuals.
Well, the reason why I ask is obviously everybody knows I attended the hearing this past week, and I noticed that they were talking about the Indiana had amended their law when it comes to freedom of the press, stating that they can withhold information from the public because of the sensitive nature of a case.
Well, something like that could very well be duly challenged in the court system, probably in federal court, where they sit back and say, Your Honor, this undermines the principles of the First Amendment, where we're entitled, this information. So, that's why there's always that ebb and flow in the laws within the judicial systems, where you have ultimately different courts and different rulings all the way up to the Supreme Court that may find in favor of this state over that state, or the federal government over this state, or whatever. There's always that struggle because we are in a federal system where federalism has the rights of the government.
Oh, here he goes.
Government, but among all 50 states.
Right. Well, the only reason why I was asking is I'm trying to get a feel of what this judge could be thinking and what her duties would be as far as the federal constitution and state constitution, if she's going to be able to say, no, I'm not going to unseal the probable cause affidavit. So, but I do believe that it will be released because Nick McQuillan, the prosecutor, I have a feeling feels like it's going to get released. So he created his own he got the probable cause, and he went ahead and redacted everything out of it and presented it to the judge already. And I'm thinking, well, why would you do that? Now you're just giving the judge the okay to release it, So, so what are your thoughts when it comes to RichardAllen and the circumstances surrounding him?
Well, I believe RichardAllen's innocent. I believe that, and I actually, expected that after there was an attorney involved, that the attorney would not see this overwhelming case that, they made the public and us believe that RichardAllen was the guy that did it. I mean, we all remember that press conference where Doug Carter sits back and say, Friday was the day, it's clear and convincing to one and all. But you get this attorney that comes in that's representing Rick Allen, and he read the probable cause statement, and he comes out to the public and says, my client says he's innocent, and the probable cause statement is weak. I mean,
how many people that are
that to the judge if he didn't believe that? And the reason for that is we all know that to be licensed as an attorney, they got certain rules they have to abide by. We know that one of the rules of professional conduct require them to represent their client with zealousness, right? So that's where people sit back and imagine, well, he's just saying that because he has to say that. He has to represent and say and contort the facts in the client's best interest. Well, you could say that, but there's another rule for attorneys under the rules of professional conduct, and that is candor with the court. That means honesty with the judge. So when he has so what he can say to the public can be one thing, but if he's going to represent things in pleadings to the judge, which this is the information that he put in there when he does his motion for a bail for Allen, is he sits back and says, that the probable cause statement, does not, make a clear picture of his guilt, nor does it, satisfy the presumption of innocence. So the presumption of guilt. So he's sitting back saying in two different ways that he doesn't see that there's a case that the prosecutor can win with. And that being said, I've been to many preliminary hearings where they test probable cause with the judge, where there's a bind over if there's enough there, and where I've seen the judge say, well, prosecutor, there's enough here to move forward, but I think you got a long ways to go to prove a case beyond reasonable doubt. So that's recognizing the different levels of persuasion that a prosecutor may have with a judge. Yeah, there's enough here to file. Oh, yeah, there's enough to proceed. But you got to convince the jury there's enough to convict. And sometimes prosecutors don't get there. And
that would be where the discovery comes in, correct?
Well, yeah, but if you don't have the information in a probable cause statement, you're not going to have it in discovery yet either. So, like, for instance, the probable cause statement is articulation. It's the facts as they're stated, verbally or in writing, where you sit back saying, Your Honor, under oath, I say that this suspect is responsible because he was found with the murder knife. Well, in the discovery will say something to the effect that, we searched the suspect's home, we opened up a chest in his attic, and there was a knife measuring 7 inches long, 2 inches wide with a wood handle. It was taken following the principles of forensics, taken to a lab for DNA testing. There was trace evidence of blood matching the victim, blah, blah, blah. That's where discovery comes in, but they're not going to necessarily articulate all that in a probable cause statement because they're just trying to hit the basics of probable cause. Right. Now, that being said, the beauty of the Delphi murders is, and I hate to sound that way, I'm talking legally, I'm not talking factually. This is a sad case, but legally, we've seen statement once already, right? Earlier this March, a probable cause search of Ron Logan was released, and it was very detailed, talking about his GPS location, talking about what time he was on the bridge, what time he was out in the yard, and things of that nature. The fact that when confronted by law enforcement, he had an alibi. That source was contacted, and that source confirmed that, but then later recanted, saying that he was asked to lie, and that request for an alibi actually predated the knowledge that there was dead victims on his property. Why would you need an alibi for a double murder on your property unless you had personal knowledge of that? And why would you have personal knowledge of that? Because you were involved in that, or you're solely responsible for that, the bodies being on your property. And a lot of people have thrown up, oh, he just was afraid that he was going to get caught driving. He drove all the time. Ask any law enforcement that worked in Delphi. They'll tell you he drove all the time. So he's asking for alibis on a daily basis. Was that confirmed with the cousin? No, because every other driving, he didn't need an alibi. He only asked for an alibi the day that there's a double murder on his property. Wake up. Listen, it's there. Why isn't the FBI at the press conference? Because the FBI disagrees with the approach in the direction that the state police are heading. The FBI sits back and said, Ron Logan did it. And they said, well, he was too old. Well, guess what? Age is not a disqualifier. You can murder anyone at any time of your life as long as you're not under 8. 8 is a cutoff date where you can't be held to murder. It's an accident. You're not well enough formed to formulate mens rea to go kill somebody. But somebody older than that, they can. If you're 97, you can't kill somebody. Get out of Dodge. In the case of Ron Logan, you can't kill someone at 77. He's screwing 33-year-olds. Can't kill somebody, but he can go screw a 33-year-old in his house and make a deal with the devil. Oh yeah, you can live here and you can have your probation covered as long as you give me some. Come on. What is wrong with these people?
Now I have a question, because you make a valid point with the Ron Logan affidavit. Now, when this probable cause
somebody's listening.
Yeah, when this probable cause arrest warrant comes out for RichardAllen, we should get some of that information also, because they had a search on his house before they arrested him, correct?
There would be a probable cause request and a warrant issued to search his property, unless they knocked on the door and he waived that right by inviting them in. But because of the serious nature here, even if he gave consent, they would still go get a judicial order, because there would be that wiggle room that the attorney would sit back and say, oh, he was under duress. It wasn't freely given. Where's the recording? You didn't have him sign a form waiving his right. You didn't give him his Miranda. I mean, come on. It's so plain and obvious as the nose on my face what really happened. And these guys are cramming this square peg into this round hole, hoping like hell, because Ron Logan is dead, that they can blame it on somebody so they can save an ounce of dignity.
But what I'm saying is that this probable cause that we're waiting for to be released, because the search was done before he was arrested, all of that information should be in this probable cause affidavit so that we can see whether it's weak or not, right?
Right. That's the whole point of an open court system, is that when a member of our community is charged with a heinous crime, the public has a right to know, so we know that we're not bowing to a tyrannical government with a corrupt judge, because remember, this is all stemming from the Constitution, where these people feared the crown because of the corruption, because of the tyrannical nature of King George. We wanted a system that had those kinds of checks and balances, and it was a government set up by the people, for the people. And we're not going to sit back and be kowtowed and lied to. We want to know so we can protect one of our members, because if this happens to RichardAllen, it can happen to any of us. So the whole point is, and the reason why you have uniformity of process, which is due process, is we're all treated equally, so that someone isn't a scapegoat. Somebody doesn't get falsely charged or convicted. We want to see normal process. We want to see that he's treated no different than anybody else. They act like this is the first time there's been a murder in the history of Indiana. That's a lie. Why do you have to treat RichardAllen different than anybody else? In the course of 200 years, why is RichardAllen different than any other murder suspect? And that's because, and this is my personal opinion, because they released his name without the facts, hoping that people would call in and say, wow, you arrested Rick. Oh, I knew he was shady. And they start giving them information to help build up their profile against him without them steering that publicly by releasing the information beforehand. Because what happens if they do that beforehand? Somebody calls in, it sounds like they're just repeating what they heard or read about when they read the PC statement, but they want someone to call in that's unaffected by the arrest, other than his name disclosure, saying, yeah, now that you mention it, I did remember seeing Rick leaving the Monon High Bridge Trail that day. But if they didn't release his name, no one would have came forward if they thought that he's a nice guy and had nothing to do with it. They're hoping, praying for new leads from this approach. But they're not going to get it because RichardAllen had no business up there. He's certainly, what this boils down to is they collected the black clothing out of his closet because they're trying to follow up this story where this teenager said, oh, I saw this guy wearing all black in a mask and he scared me and he looked evil. Well, so they take Rick's clothes out of his closet, and guess what? I got black clothes too. It doesn't make me a criminal, but they take his black clothes, and guess what though? He's not the bridge guy if they're saying he's the guy wearing all black, because the bridge guy's got denim jeans and a blue zip-up jacket and a hoodie and a ball cap, and if he doesn't have that stuff, he's not bridge guy. So at the very least, they're saying that RichardAllen is an accomplice to somebody that looked like Ron Logan, who is the bridge guy. So he's either the number 2 man, because the number 1 man that walked across the bridge and told the girls down the hill is not the guy wearing all black. If that's all black man is RichardAllen. It's not gonna fit. Their story is crumbling before their eyes.
His height worries me because he's very short, and it seems to me like bridge guy is taller in the pictures. It's hard to tell, but that worries
me. And has a right-legged limp, and has his head down and a camo hat with double crease. And my hell, where is this guy? And they can use geometry to figure out how tall the guy really was. We know how wide the boards used to be.
Right.
All you have to do is measure the board across the side and digitally put it up along the height of the guy that's crossing over the board, and you can approximate his height. But guess what? They destroyed the bridge by removing all the boards. So unless somebody measured the distance of the boards before that moment, now we can't take images and digitally calculate that. All we can do now is just digitally off the image measure the distance of the board and go up to the height. And unless you know what the length of the boards are, you're not going to be able to figure that height out that way, other than say he's approximately the same distance minus X percent of the board length. But clearly a 5'4" man and a 6'2" man are completely different.
So what are your thoughts on what is in this probable cause and how they got the arrest warrant when the defense is stating it's so flimsy?
I think that it comes from Keegan Klein. Keegan Klein said RichardAllen is the other, guy that had access to his account, which is unheard of. Nobody shares a login to a profile. Numbnuts can set up his own account and exploit little girls. He doesn't have to call Keegan and say, "Hey, give me your login and password. I'm going to go message Kelsey." BS. Keegan had, just like every other online predator, online scammer, whether it be an old guy trying to scam old women out of their money or some pervert trying to scam little girls out of their panty shots, it's the same approach. You message all your target's friends, which I believe an attempt to message Libby was because she's not the target. It was Kelsey who's the target. So Keegan messages Kelsey after making friends with her circle of friends, so that when Kelsey sees this, oh, it's somebody that knows Debbie and knows Brenda and knows all these other people. Okay, I'll accept this friend request. And you go from there. So, it has nothing to do with what actually happened that day. And if there is any ring of truth that somebody said, "Hey, let's meet," it's a coincidence at best, because I don't even believe that conversation actually happened. I believe Libby and Abby went to the trail for whatever personal reasons on their day off that they wanted. I don't think it had anything to do with messaging Anthony Schatz, because if that were the motive, they would have messaged him, "Hey, we're here." That never happened. In fact, the initial round of the cyber investigation by ICAC said there is no link to social media as an issue in this investigation. 3 years later, they changed their tune because they ran out of other options.
Makes sense. Does make sense. But,
so do you have any knowledge of these two defense attorneys that he has? Have you done any research on them as to what their experience is?
No, I haven't investigated the attorneys. I would like either one of them to call me and put me to work, because I would fight for Rick's innocence, because I do believe he's not guilty.
So you believe that he did not murder the girls, but he could be involved.
I think he has nothing to do with Libby and Abby. I think he has nothing to do with the case. I don't think that he was wearing all black that day. I don't think he looked at some 16-year-old and gave her the cold stare, because guess what? If he's going to kill anybody, why not the 16-year-old at that moment? Why try to target two girls that one could fight back or one could run away while you're killing the other one? Why not kill the 16-year-old? It's BS. It never happened.
Do you have any other questions, Frank?
No, I got the answers I wanted to hear. Sure did. It gives me another perspective on what the legal system's about.
Right.
So
what do you think is going to happen here coming up on this next hearing that they're going to have for him as far as bond and whatever else they're doing that day?
Well, I think on February 17th in the next hearing, the judge is going to decide whether or not bail should be granted and whether or not the PC statement should be released. I think that they've done a sufficient job to couple the two together, that if you got strong PC and there's existing belief sufficient in that statement that he should be held until trial, that's what's going to happen. Because if he's a criminal, a double murderer, he should not be released because he's a danger to the community and he's a flight risk. If on the other hand it's flimsy, as his attorney mentioned, then they probably shouldn't have arrested him in the first place. But they probably just arm twisted the judge, and the judge went along with it, saying, well, if there's more here and you're going to be able to bring this to me, I'll grant this opportunity. But then look what he did. Judge Diener ran like he's scared. It's like, well, why didn't you follow protocol? Why didn't you do what you're supposed to do?
Got a question here for you, Mr. Jensen. It's coming from the Rockaways, and he wanted to know if he thinks there is a disagreement between the prosecutor and the police investigators on how to approach this case.
Well, it doesn't really seem like there's too much of a disagreement because they're all in cahoots. The police presented probable cause information. The prosecutor prepared it and got a warrant, and then the police went down and executed that warrant and arrested him. It sounds like they were working together at that moment. And we do know that here's the part that really throws my mind off is this is a county case with a county prosecutor. What in God's name is ISP and Doug Carter involved? This should have had a county sheriff, PIO, public information officer handling the media. Why do they need the superintendent for the Indiana State Police involved? It's not like that in any other case. It's because his hand is in the cookie jar, and he's going to make sure that he's not going to come out of this with his ass showing, and that's exactly what I see. I see nothing but bare ass, and it's coming, and he probably knows it.
Right. Okay, we have another question. Was it possible for Logan's phone to be detected right at the bridge, or would it have been just the general area, which would have been his property?
Sure. Well, it's actually pretty big property. If you do it, look at the Google overview of it, the bridge is almost, just a thin line, the trail and the bridge, and his property seems pretty vast to the main road, to the cemetery. So if his phone GPS is wandering all about, it's the strangest coincidence. It happened to ping at 2:09 on the bridge when the girls are on the bridge looking at bridge guy on the bridge. So that's a weird coincidence. And then the other thing to consider is that the FBI had all of his data, okay? Not just one day, but all of his cell phone data over a period of time. And so if there's a history of his phone pings wandering, which is called drifting, if his phone drifts here and there all over on the map, it's not going to be just on February 13th, but it's going to be the 12th and the 11th and on and on and on before that date and after that date. So there'll be a pattern, a history of his phone drifting. But there's no mention of that. So they're saying that there's reasonable belief he did it. We believe that because A, B, C, D, go down the whole list like a checklist. He had an alibi. He asked for an alibi falsely. He, his cell phone pinged there. His phone showed him out by the vicinity of the bodies about 8 o'clock that night and about 10:17 that night. And come on, it's like if this was me or you, we'd already be charged. The difference is, oh, he's too old. He couldn't have done this. What are you talking about? The guy, in all the videos that I've seen where he takes people to the crime scene, he's practically jogging up and down that damn hill. He doesn't seem breathless when he's doing it. He is proud of it. He's talking, pointing around, going, "Oh yeah, I see where it's matted down over there. That's where the bodies were." He wouldn't know. He wasn't there. What I've been told by my whistleblowers is that they knocked on his door. He didn't answer. Okay, and he doesn't have cameras or doorbell ringers or anything like that. That later on that day, he calls the sheriff's office wanting to know why they're at his property. Well, how do you know? Because he was there. He was hiding inside of his home. So they should have got a warrant that night. They fell. They didn't.
Right.
They could have gone back that night and said, "Hey, we don't suspect you, but the murder was on your property. We got to do our due diligence and come search your home." Waiting until March 17th, over a month later. And Ron Logan's not stupid. No one said he's dumb. They said he's too old. Okay. He's had over a month where he's seen video out there of himself. He's heard audio of him. He's had a whole month to just go through his entire house and clean the shit out of it so that when they did come in March, they found no additional evidence.
So like blood and flavors and things like that.
Sometimes you just have to file with what you got.
That would make sense. And that's always bothered me why they didn't do a search warrant at his house right away.
Because they're not used to double homicides in little old Delphi, Utah. I mean, not Utah. Delphi, Indiana.
Well, that goes with the next question. Can you ask him why the Indiana Attorney General is not handling this case? It's too big for Carroll County.
It's not too big. McClellan's handling it. If it was too big for him, it could have been the Attorney General. If it was an ICAC case, if it was involving Doug Carter, the Indiana Attorney General would be handling the case, but it's a county, it's a murder. It's not internet crimes against children. It like Keegan, it is literally a murder in the county. Every county across the entire United States of America handles its own homicides. That's the way things are handled. Doug Carter inserting himself is the aberrant situation here. He's breaking norm. He's breaking protocol. For them to drag Keegan into it, say that it's an ICAC issue, and leading the public to speculate that it has something to do with Delphi. But when you confirm, we don't know. There's nothing yet. Come on, we're not stupid. They keep trying to have the court of public opinion convict whomever they're after, whoever the flavor of the day is. They hounded Keegan Klein. They hounded Tony. They hounded a couple guys before those guys. And now they're after RichardAllen. I mean, if it wasn't for him in protective jail custody, they would have dragged him out, flogged him, burned him at the stake, and then lynched him. They've created the mob mentality that's come after the poor guy, and they haven't even told us why he's guilty. But they have everybody naming him and ruining his name and depriving him of his freedom and his liberty and right to counsel while he's stuck in a prison cell going, holy shit, man, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. Prove it. Prove he did something. Let us see the probable cause statement like every other case in America.
Right.
The thing that's interesting about this case is it reminds me of the Elizabeth Smart case, which I actually worked on in the civil rights case back in 2002. Elizabeth Smart disappeared. They believed up and down Richard Reese did it. and
right. I remember that.
They arrested him. They threw him in prison, hoping that he would squeal, hoping that he would say something to somebody. Guess where RichardAllen is? Same scenario. Let's throw him in prison, and we're going to closely monitor him. If he says something to a cellmate, if he writes something, if he makes a phone call, we're going to have everything recorded, and then we're going to use that against him. Well, Richard Reese died while he was in their little, makeshift, convict him until he's guilty bullshit. And he died, okay? And they were coming forward saying, dear Lord, he died while in custody, and he took to his grave his secret of what he did with Elizabeth Smart. Well, a few months later, here comes Elizabeth, dressed in religious garb, including a mask, being like a little cult follower to David Mitchell and his wife Wanda Barzee, and they're just on the city streets. And someone calls it in, and the police come up and says, "Hey, I think you're Elizabeth Smart," and she denied it.
She did.
He asked her to remove her mask, and she did. And lo and behold, hey, you're Elizabeth Smart. Guess what? Richard Reese did not kill Elizabeth Smart. You can go call Elizabeth Smart right now. She's got a foundation, the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, ESF. Hi, this is Elizabeth. She's not dead. Richard Reese did not kill her. The state got it wrong. This is another example. The state's getting it wrong. Now, it happens. Humans are fallible. Humans make up our system. And oftentimes, judges get it wrong, juries get it wrong. That's why we have appellate courts. It goes all the way up, and I've seen sometimes you can get convicted. That goes up to the appellate court. It gets reversed for one reason or another. They appeal that one. It goes to the state Supreme Court, and they reverse the decision. Then it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they make a final decision. And sometimes it goes up and down and left and right, and you never know. So it happens. Things get it wrong. The FBI out there will admit that there's as much as 5% of the prison population are falsely convicted. That's scary. 5%. That's 5 people out of 100. Is RichardAllen one of the 95%, or is he one of the 5%? Well, geez, none of us know. We haven't seen the probable cause statement. We don't know what they have. We just know that they're arresting him. He's incarcerated, call it a detention, and they're waiting for the evidence to come flowing in to build a stronger case. But if you're innocent, that kind of information really doesn't come forward unless you got some loony out there that's making it up for the moment of their own glory, which happens too. Where, hey, I got information about this murder. Yeah. I saw it happen. It happened before my eyes, and you're sitting there taking notes, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is a good witness." Okay, well, I got another one, and I was raped by aliens. It's like, oh shit. Okay, but she doesn't know what she's talking about because she's obviously crazy. So things like that happen.
So, do you think there's going to be arrests of others?
No.
So, do you think this was just Ron Logan?
Just Ron Logan. Now, it's mostly because, Ron Logan wasn't born evil, but there's plenty of incidences out there where somebody, through the later years of their life, they start to have, either dementia or brain function regress, atrophy of the brain, personalities change, and from that they all of a sudden onset of violent tendencies, and oftentimes sex and violence are hand in hand. He became more and more violent the older he got. There's plenty of witnesses out there that said that he would be abusive towards women and threaten people. By hell, there's plenty of people that sit back and say that he would pull a shotgun and say, "Get off my land." that's normal, but he's not capable of cutting somebody. I don't see it. People can put their blinders on and see RichardAllen as the culprit, but gosh, free your mind. Look at the facts.
Right. Well, we're looking at everything. So we still have people.
Well, I'm not saying that directed at you. That's the public.
No, I know.
The public needs to open up their eyes and see the big picture here. But they will. Before this ride is over, RichardAllen will be acquitted if there's a trial, or they'll dismiss the charges because they never had anything beforehand. As a paralegal, I've had my hands on motions to dismiss. I've also done motions to strike indictments. So it depends on if you file something early on where you're saying there's lack of probable cause, or later on before trial when you're claiming that there's something that needs to be suppressed, or there was some procedural violation, or that there's because procedure is due process, and that's a Fifth Amendment violation. If you violate the Fifth Amendment, that's grounds for dismissal. Okay,
so I want you to talk a little bit more about due process, because we are trying to explain this to our subscribers and our viewers. What is due process? What does that all contain in a trial?
Sure. There's substantive due process and there's procedural due process. Procedural due process are kind of the things that we're used to, notice, fair opportunity, access to all the information. So there's a process, and it's fairness, and fairness isn't just how you're going to treat me, but in the big scope of things, it's the same as everybody else. That's what most people are used to as procedural due process. And then substantive due process is like what's written in the law. And, so like you can violate someone's substantive due process if there's like a law that's written that disagrees with the Constitution, for instance. Like what we were saying about the access to the media. That sounds like a substantive due process violation, where you're sitting back saying, the media have a right to this information, and you're depriving us using a little statute that's under the Constitution. The Constitution is supreme to all of the land across. And when you're talking a judge who's sworn to uphold the law, the Constitution, and the like, it's all encompassing. So if you're willing to violate the Constitution, you're willing to violate the statutes.
Right. So my last question for you is, we've heard the defense team say something about some paperwork wasn't filed correctly by the prosecutor. What is it that wasn't filed correctly, and how can that affect the case?
Well, I'm not aware of what document. I mean, different documents have different impacts. So like, for instance, if there's a charging document and the Constitution says only through indictment or information can a criminal action be commenced. Well, if there's no indictment on file and there's no information on file, then, and like, let's say they just started the process with the citation that you got, well, that violates that statute where it says, by information or by complaint. So, that oftentimes is what they're referring to, because it's not going to be the warrant application or anything like that. But maybe they're talking about they didn't meet the 72-hour rule. I heard that up a few times as well. So like, they didn't charge him within the first 72 hours of his arrest. That's what could be the issue, because I think it was like 5 days or 7 days before they actually did it. Now, sometimes those things can be extended. Sometimes you can go get a court order or something like that to extend that time frame. But I've seen that in our system, and usually that gets ignored. It's like, well, it's filed now, Mr. Oliver. That was my boss. It's filed now. So, unless you're willing to take it up the ladder to the appeal through the appeals process, sometimes they're just willing to excuse some of these technicalities, as they say, but a technicality is a violation of the law. If I break the law, I get a ticket. If a prosecutor breaks the law, they get a pass. Well, that does not seem like due process to me.
Yeah. The due process, and well, I've heard a few different things on what wasn't done right or what, and you don't know. We don't know what it is. So I'm not going to say those things right now because that would just be throwing speculation out there again, and I can't confirm that's what these documents are that weren't filed correctly, but
right.
I do have another question from a viewer. Do you think there's disagreement between the prosecutor and the police investigators on how to approach this case?
Didn't we just answer that?
Yeah, that was answered earlier.
Oh, okay.
I was having deja vu. I was about to disconnect from the matrix.
Yeah, that's right. Do you think they're redoing the bridge to take the jury out there all of a sudden? I mean, Frank and I have been talking about this. It's been almost 6 years. That bridge has gotten worse and worse and worse, and they've been letting people walk on it like this all this time. And now all of a sudden that there's an arrest, they took all the beams off and they're fixing it. What the heck?
Yeah, I heard that, and I had a broken heart because I had intentions to come out there and do some forensics with the bridge concerning, like we were talking about earlier, using geometry to figure out the height. Now the boards are gone, so I can't be the one out there doing measurements because the boards are gone. The new boards may be different than the old one. And the other thing that was always thrown in my face about the right-legged limp of the bridge guy is, he's probably stepping over a larger gap of the boards. Well, let's go see those boards and see if there's a gap that would cause you to have a short step and a large step. But I don't see it from the video.
We have one guy that we've worked with. He measured the boards. He said they are 10 feet across.
So 10 feet exact?
That's what he's saying.
Well, then you can take that measurement, and actually do a digital comparison, like digital line, then turn it on its side, and you can see how high it goes up to how high the guy goes up to that 10-foot line, and then you can estimate his height. I mean, because it's science. I mean, 10 feet is 10 feet. The further you away, it's still 10 feet. It's just, looks 10 feet looks like this to me when it's 100 feet away, but 10 feet is bigger than this right here where I'm at. But 10 feet is 10 feet. Where 10 feet is where that man is standing is still 10 feet. So you can take that line, turn it on its side. You can see how high the guy goes up to a 10-foot mark.
Okay.
So 6 feet and 1 inch.
Interesting.
It's science. Can't beat science.
Right. What sort of investigation do you think the defense is going to conduct in this case? I mean,
they've already going to measure the boards on the bridge at this point, are they?
Right.
That's spoliation of evidence. They've literally, by rebuilding the bridge at this point in time, right before a trial where they had plans to take the jury to, now you're going to bring the jury to a brand new bridge. There's no forensic value for the jury at this point. They've just completely undermined that aspect of the trial process. And if there was probative value to take the jury out there, they've lost it, because now the only one that's prejudiced is RichardAllen, because he can't go do measurements before trial. He can't try and prove it wasn't me. And the jury goes out there, they see a brand new bridge and they go skipping along, oh, look at me. Woo-hoo-hoo. It was dumb timing. Dumb.
Right.
If anything, they should have closed it off. Jeez. I saw that and I just about fell over dead.
Yeah, I bet. What kind of budget does the public defender get to defend somebody like RichardAllen in this case?
It's all, hold on. It's all, hey, there's nobody here. There's nobody here. It's okay. There's nobody here. Anyway, so, every county is different. So every county is different. And because of a high profile case like this, I'm sure he's probably put in a budgetary request for something even bigger. So they'll itemize what their needs are. Come here, girl. Come here. They'll itemize and increase their budget specific to this case. But typically, I've seen what, hey, stop it. I've seen where budgets of counties are no more than 20 grand a month because it's just a supplemental to their day job, if you will, because it's something that is a public service that not every defense attorney wants to do. Not everybody wants to work for everybody that can't afford an attorney because you get bad reviews. You get the cases that you can't get rid of because you're the guy at the bottom. You're stuck with it because this guy couldn't hire an attorney. So it's not an enviable place, but I do tell you, usually a public defender has a chance to become a judge down the road because of that public service. And usually it's the public defenders that get the capital certifications that they need to handle the murders that private sector can't, because a private sector attorney will sit back and say, I want 50 grand just to start. And then what my hourly is $300, $400 an hour. And they can't seem to, they don't get hired because the guy can't afford you.
All right. It sounds like your little ones over there are having a ball.
Yeah, they're getting restless.
I saw the puppy, and it was adorable. The picture of the puppy. Yeah. It was a cute puppy. But otherwise, I think we've covered everything with Mr. Jensen.
Yes, thank you. I mean, that information about the due process and how things work and why you think he has nothing, to do with it. And I mean, that's all valuable information. Until we see that PC, everybody is in limbo.
Right. So going back to what we said earlier, the defense attorney, he's free to say whatever he wants to the public, but he wasn't limited to that. He filed documents with the court, and in the document, he said the same thing. And he has an ethical rule of candor with the court. So he's being honest to the court when he says that. So that's significant to me. He's saying it's flimsy to us, and he says basically the same thing in legalese, that that he doesn't see where they met the burdens, that this guy's guilty, or even met the presumption of guilt. So I'm sitting here going, well, I've been saying this all along. It's going nowhere, and I haven't read it with my own eyes, but I have no reason to not believe what I've read, what's been filed with the court.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that the probable cause is released sooner than February now, or March, because we need to put some of this to rest.
Right. And I think that the sooner it's released, the better overall, because you're just going to make everybody even more and more frustrated, more and more angry if you kick this out so far that by the time we do learn about it, everybody's just so angry. Why did you drag this out for a year and a half? It's a lot easier if it's like a Band-Aid and you rip it off today and said, well, the judge released it. It's not there. We'll continue to work on the case. But, if you're going to drag everybody out and embarrass yourself, it's not going to go well. Not going to go well.
I know. I agree.
I do too.
I mean, I see the family side of it. They don't want it released until the trial, because they're afraid something's going to happen.
That's not even true. They are following what they've been told. They're interested in protecting the case because the prosecutor said we're interested in protecting the case. So they're just restating what they've been told. So whether they believe that beforehand, I mean, maybe they've seen the statement and through their naivety, they don't see the gravity of what they're reading, or they fail to understand the significance. But if they haven't seen it either, but they're being told that if we release this information, people are in danger and the facts in the case are threatened, well, of course they're going to sit back and say we don't want it released either. But if it was any other family this happened to, they would agree. They'd be with us saying, show us what you got, because if this really is the killer, we want to know it's the killer, not just simply close the chapter on it. Well, I don't think they would be happy knowing that they've convicted an innocent man for the sake of just closing it as a conviction. No. They want the right thing too.
All right.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I've learned a lot.
Yep.
And I love being able to get questions answered.
Well, even though I'm not in the prosecutor's office or the defense attorney's office, much of what I said is an opinion, but whether your audience believes it makes sense, that's up to them to decide. And if they don't agree, they don't have to agree with me. They don't have to send me hate emails or anything like that. When this is all over with and the dust settles, I'm either right or I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, it didn't change anybody. It didn't matter. Right. I'm just the outsider looking in. But I've been pretty steadfast because I know what the facts are. I've always appreciated the facts. Facts aren't convenient. Facts are facts.
Right.
And when that March 17, 2017 warrant affidavit was released, those were facts. I didn't make them up. Right. I'm just relying on them. And if I had no idea about those facts, I would have no basis to formulate an opinion about Ron Logan other than saying what I noticed, like, hey, that video bridge guy looks like Ron Logan, who did an interview 2 days later. That's all I had to start with. But when the affidavit from the FBI, okay, not future buttholes in Indiana, no, FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, they said Ron Logan did it. Why isn't the FBI part of the press conference, part of the investigation? Because there was a disagreement between the FBI and ISP. So they checked out. That's what I see. I don't see that they said, oh, you got it all under control. We're just going to get out of the picture. No. They always have their little press conference with every swinging Dick and Harry lining the walls. We'd like to give credit to all of our investigative partners, detective so-and-so, agent so-and-so. And, they sit back and do their victory lap. The FBI wasn't there. They've had a role in this.
Yeah.
So, to me, I see those things and they mean something.
I agree.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Sure. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks.
Much appreciated,
You
Mr.
too.
Jensen.
Thanks, y'all.
The next time in a probable cause, we'll probably have you back.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, buddy.
Take care.
Take care. Oh.
All right, everybody. Yes, he truly believes that Ron Logan is BG and the killer because of
The FBI.
the FBI.
Yep.
So he's got his right to think that, you know. But we wanted you to hear some of the other things that he was talking about, that we were asking about, because he does have a lot of knowledge. Unfortunately, some people just focused on the Ron Logan part of it. But I'm hoping that if you really want to learn something, you know, don't focus on the Ron Logan part of it. Go back and rewatch it and listen to what he said about due process and how things work and things like that, because it could answer your questions. Who's Your Cold Cases? Thank you for getting us the information about the 10 feet. We appreciate that. I never thought, I was so excited that the bridge was getting fixed for myself and for others to be able to walk across it. I never once thought about how that affects the defense of any individual tried in this case, and how it almost taints the jury because they're not truly going to see what was there. And now his defense is not going to be able to go and do their own tests and things on that either. So that kind of hit me. When he was talking to
DNA King wants to be on the show. 20 years of experience in criminal defense. Send us your information, DNA King, to our email.
Here, I'll give you the banner here with our email address. And yeah, we'll set up a show with just talking to you about your experience. Absolutely. Death penalty certified. Okay. Yeah, you definitely can be on our show.
Yeah, most definitely.
We're not the kind of hosts that just bring on certain people. We want to hear all views. Let's see here. I'd love to get Cop Facts on here. So, what do you think, Frank?
You get tired.
Yeah, it's a little bit late for us. But I'm glad
getting up earlier every morning, so.
Yep. We got to think outside the box on everything.
And I don't see the judge waiting until February to make a decision on releasing the PCA at all.
God, I hope not.
I just don't see that. I don't see it at all. And yes, and I still don't understand why they haven't corrected the charging information where it shows a $20 million bond. They still haven't corrected that yet.
Right.
And I placed a call to Nick McClelland's office, and I left a message with his secretary, and he never got back with me about it. So I don't know. I would imagine if the judge is going to release it, I would say within the next week or two. Hoosier? Maybe next time. It's getting late for us, True Seeker.
Yeah, I would love to have Hoosier Cold Cases come on.
Hoosier, do me a favor and send us your information to our email so we know how to reach out to you. And I totally agree with him too. I think that Keegan Klein is in the mix. Things are starting to add up with him when it comes to charges being dropped and information being released on RichardAllen. I mean, it's just, man, I want to contact Keegan so bad and see if he'll tell me if he knew RichardAllen.
Well, we'll have to come to a decision here. Like I said, we were talking about it earlier, and
I mean, I talked to Mr. Jensen about the situation with Keegan. He said he's reaching out to you for a reason. He said it's apparent it's not money because, from my understanding, from what you told me, you were giving him advice, and it sounds like the guy ain't got nobody to talk to now, so he's reaching out to you for somebody to talk to.
Well, I don't. Like I said, I don't have anything against throwing $5 on his Chirp account so we can find out what his intentions are.
Right.
But I'm not going to put any major money on there, you know, so that he can use it to talk to other people.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what I told Mr. Jensen.
So we can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah. It'll give us some time to discuss on how to handle that situation. Because like I said, he's contacted me 2 days in a row.
Well, and that's why I'm like,
So, but otherwise, it's getting late, guys. That's what happens when you get old. You go to bed early and get up early.
Yeah, I go to bed late, get up early.
And I haven't even got to see my baby girl for about a few minutes today, so.
Oh, gotta have some time with her.
Yep.
All right, everybody. That means we're going to jump off here, but we will be back. Tomorrow is, God, I lose track of the days when I'm not working today.
You're off till Monday.
Okay, so tomorrow's Sunday. Monday, we have an interview with some people on the Tabitha Shuck Reigns, so we will not be doing a live on Monday. But we'll plan something for Tuesday.
Andrea, my sweatshirt's done. Hey. You know my address.
So, also, next Friday, we are going to do a members-only live.
Yeah.
Because I asked what days would be best for everybody, and they said Fridays was the winner. So, next Friday, we are going to do a members live. If you aren't a member, become a member, join, because we're going to start our members lives next Friday night.
But otherwise, guys, we'll be mailed in out of the first of the week. Oh, yeah, that means I'll get my shirt by Wednesday. My sweatshirt. Can't wait.
So just one more thing. If you want to join our Facebook group, link is in the description below the video. Our Discord link is in the description below. And if you want True Crime with Marv and Frank merchandise, the link is in the description below the video. Andrea and her sister are ready for those orders. So, yes, Who's Your Cold Case, please. We'd love to have you on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He worked with, when we were out at the, on the 29th, the 29th of October, when we had the last walk, he actually helped me and Marv with the coordinates at the crime scene. So he used one of those digital compasses, and that was the neatest thing I ever seen in my life. I ain't never seen a digital compass.
Yeah, that was cool to see that. So,
all right, guys, taking you out of here. Love every one of y'all. Appreciate y'all hanging out tonight. we got, like she said, we got a meeting Monday regards to Tabitha Shuck Rains. Probably go live maybe sometime next week. If not, we'll definitely be on Friday for members only.
Oh, we'll be live before that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So,
but otherwise, guys, I'm taking us out of here. Good night. Peace out. One love. Love all of you. Take care. Be safe.
good night, everybody.
Good night.
Avery Shannon, thank you for that.